Hey guys, this is Colin Warren, and welcome to my no BS guide to sidechain compression. This next few minutes, we're going over the concept of sidechain compression, and for you more advanced people out there, this will be a short video. I'll give you a quick little advanced tip that you can use to do things such as multiband, sidechain compression, but allows you to do a couple other cool tricks. So first off, before we jump into it, before we start using these tools, we need to figure out, okay, why are we doing sidechain compression? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't like extraneous amounts of effects racks on each of my effects racks, or effects on my effects racks. I swear I can speak English sometimes. So why would we want to use sidechain compression to take up our CPU and memory? The main reason you would want to use sidechain compression is for a mixing purpose, because again, sidechain compression is the process in which you take two elements and you want to duck out one element anytime the other element plays in. So let's say, okay, we have a bass and we have a kick, and we want the bass to duck out every time the kick drum hits, because they both share the same lower frequencies, and you don't have really one element for it to sound good in the lower frequency. So I would set up a sidechain compression to tell the computer, okay, I've got these two elements playing. Every time I see this element play, or i.e. the kick, duck out our second element here, the bass. So kick hits, boom, bass drops, kick goes away, bass comes back up. So that's the main purpose of sidechain compression. In addition to being a mixing tool, you can also use it for effect. Sometimes, and if you listen to a lot of French house tracks, definitely a lot of dance music, but at least the most prominent genre that you really use as sidechain compression overboard is French house, with everything will be pumping up and down, as you notice. And so you'll notice from when we throw these effects on. So with that overview, let's go ahead and start linking up everything and showing you how to set up a sidechain compression. So the first thing you need, of course, is elements to sidechain to. And here I have a kick and a bass that with a bass line that is the most glorious bass line known to mankind. Can never beat the 1-4-5 progression. So now that we have that set up, I wanted to say, okay, this bass, I want this to duck out every time the kick hits. So how would we do that? First, we'll open up our handy dandy mixer. Left click, select the first element we want to link. So, okay, our kick, go to our channel routing. Route this channel, select the track. Okay, now for the bass, I want another channel 2, right click, route selected channels to this track. Boom. Now we have both elements linked to two separate tracks. Go ahead and turn this down a little bit. So now that I have the mixer set up, let me show you, okay, how do we sidechain this? So first thing you want to do, and this is irregardless if you're doing a kick bass or you have two other elements, first thing you want to do is select the element all the other elements are being sidechained to. So in this case, the kick is being sidechained, or all the elements are being sidechained to the kick, so I want to select the kick. So once I select that here, looks like I preemptively did this already, just testing to make sure it worked before the video. But what you want to do is you want to left click, okay, once you have it selected, you'll go down to this arrow here, you right click, and sidechain to this track, and boom, you have the first step done. So you'll see a little green arrow pop up. That's a good sign. Make sure to select sidechain to this track. If you select any of these other ones, results may vary. I don't think I've ever used sidechain to this track only, and I'll use route to this track and route to this track only, but that's for completely different purposes, for things like buses and sends. In this case, we're only worried about sidechaining. In this case, I think I've only ever selected sidechain to this track, so make sure you select that. Finally, on the element that's being sidechained, we want to go in here. So in case our bass is being the one that's sidechained, go in here, find a good old instance of Fruity Limiter. Left click on that. Go to the compressor section, and then you'll navigate to about the middle. You'll see a sidechain option here. You want to put that up to number 1. Almost always, 80-90% of the time, it'll be number 1. Sometimes if you have multiple elements being sidechained to each other, or if you're linking multiple elements to a given bus or send, if you're getting a little bit more complicated, sometimes you'll see multiple numbers jump up here. In that case, it's just trial and error to figure out, okay, which number is the one that's actually the element I want to sidechain to. In our case, though, it's only number 1. Makes that easy. So now the knobs we worry about adjusting is the threshold and the ratio and the attack release knobs. Really, for me, I think I've only ever adjusted the threshold, ratio, and release knobs. So we'll go ahead and do that. So the first thing we'll do is get our track playing, and I'll show you what we're adjusting. So first we'll set the threshold. You'll see a blue thing popping up here. That's a good sign. That means, okay, compressor's ready to sidechain. Now we need to turn the ratio up. You can turn the threshold down for a more pumpy sound. Finally, I can turn the release down, but to halfway. And I think actually most of the time I turn it to halfway. Sometimes I'll let it longer, but I think 95% of the time I'll turn it just to halfway. And then, yeah, you get the full-on EDM classic sidechain sound. You can reduce it if you just want a little bit or a lot. I find about here, at least for a kick-based relationship, that's about a good sidechain amount to have. Again, for other elements, if you're doing it more for effect, you don't have less or more depending on it. That's how you set up a basic sidechain. So now that you've done that, let me show you the other way, or at least the more advanced way, for you guys who stuck around for this long, that you can do multiband sidechain compression, and in addition, this trick allows you to automate other things to the kick as well. So first thing we're going to do, just get rid of the limiter. Don't need to worry about getting rid of the sidechain here because that's not really effective. The first thing we're going to do, okay, we want to set up a multiband sidechain compression. So obviously, we will need a multiband side compressor. Go figure. So we will click over here, go in, Fruity multiband compressor. Now the first thing you're going to do when you open this thing up is you want to make sure you have the ratios all turned down to 1. Because FL Studio automatically sets them to 2 to 1. I don't know why. It's an extra hassle to adjust, but it is what it is. So we have that set up. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to adjust these bands over here to the frequencies in which you want the element to be sidechained to. So in our case, okay, I just want to isolate the low end of the bass and I want everything else to remain untouched. So I want everything from about 200 hertz below. I think I want that sidechain. Everything above that, okay, do not sidechain that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this lowest knob down here. And again, as you see, as I adjust it, it gives me a little heads-up display. So I'll adjust that until up in the top left, it tells me, okay, about 200 hertz. So right about there, 199, close enough. And I'll adjust this other knob so it matches up the number I adjusted to, 199. Finally, I'll turn the ratio up to about 2 to 1. And then I will just leave that here because I need to do another thing. So now I've set up the multiband. I'm going to select the element I want to sidechain this multiband to, in this case the kick, and I'm going to put an instance of Fruity Peak Filter. Let's see if we can find him, her, it. I'm sure this plugin's gender fluidus or something like that. There you are. So now that we open this thing up, first thing we're going to do, in FL12, should be a problem. It automatically unmutes it. But one thing I noticed in FL11 and 10, you'll want to double check this bottom right knob down here, the mute button. You want to make sure this is not on because for whatever reason, in versions FL10 and 11, they had this thing automatically on. It's super annoying because sometimes you set it all up and you're like, why is it not working? It's like, because you have it muted. Because FL Studio automatically opens it up as muted. So for you guys with older versions, make sure it's off. And for you newer guys, at least in FL12 and beyond, shouldn't have to worry about it. But again, double check. So now you have Fruity Peak Controller set up. So what you'll do from here is you're going to go to your threshold. You're going to right click and you're going to link to controller. So now you have this little dialog box pop up and you're like, oh man, so many windows. Once you all you need to focus on, internal controller. You want to go to peak, as we want to automate it automate it to just the sound file of the given element, not to some sort of low frequency oscillator, or make it kind of we don't want some weird curvy pattern. We just want to automate it to the sample sound. So we'll select peak here. Don't think we need smoothing on. Mapping formula. I like selecting inverted. I'm sure if you adjust the knobs, you can make either work. I always just select inverted. We can hit accept. Make sure remove conflicts is on. Now when we hit play, we're just going to start adjusting knobs until we start to see this thing start ducking. So we'll hit the space bar and I'll start tweaking. So as you see, we have our little knob over here moving up and down. So it's sidechaining a little bit. I want to sidechain a little bit harder. So what I can do is I'll be paying attention to these peak knobs here. So the base tells the knob, okay, as I twist the base, it tells you, okay, what's the starting position of this knob that we're automating over here? So if I turn the base all the way up, now it'll be 100%, 0. I'll set it to about, I think, 3 o'clock, at least in relative to the compressor. So I set the base here, and the volume, this tells me how much it will pump up and down when the kick hits, or how much of a peak this fruity peak control will be setting to the thing it's automating to. So in our case, we want a fair amount of automation. So that seems good to me. And then the decay again just tells me, okay, how quickly is it fading out once the signal has stopped sending. If you set it again, set it too quick. About halfway sounds good. I'm gonna exaggerate it a little bit more so we can really hear the effects, so I can do it before and after. So I'm not sure if you guys on higher speakers, you may not be able to hear this, but if I isolate the low end, drop it maybe a little bit lower. There we go. So you're noticing everything down below has this pumpy sound. But now if I were to go in and say, okay, turn off peak controller. Now you notice, okay, the bass and the kick kind of warbly. Now it's super sidechain. And actually, for you guys who may not be able to hear the higher frequencies, I'm gonna go ahead and adjust go into the multiband and adjust the low and mid frequencies so you guys can hear it as well. So we'll set it, okay, for this case, we want to automate it to 1700. So we'll do it right here. So if you notice, if I set my master EQ to 1700, everything below that, okay, it's automating up and down. But now if I high cut it, you can kind of hear it a little bit. This element doesn't have a whole lot in the way of higher frequencies. Let's see if I can boost it. But the higher frequencies aren't moving at all because of how we set up the multiband. Yes, at this point, you probably have to take my word for it. Go and experiment this with yourself. But yeah, so what we just did here, so we set up a sidechain compression or multiband sidechain compression to say, okay, anything below a given frequency, sidechain, anything above that, leave it alone. And so that you just do a combination between peak controller and multiband compressor. And yeah, at least you don't peak controller and the sidechaining things that peak control you can use it for other things outside of multiband compressor. Because you can, let's say you have a weird effect that you want to turn on every single time a kick kicks, for instance. You can set up a peak controller, adjust some knobs, and make that work. But I think that's enough information to be throwing at you guys today. So hope you guys found some value out of it. Okay, just to quickly recap, sidechain compression, the main purpose of it is to take two elements that are conflicting each other in the mix and to move one out of the way when another one plays. So let's say in our kick-bass relationship, okay, we have a bass, we have a kick. I want to sidechain the bass to the kick. So, okay, every time the kick hits, boom, the bass ducks out. We learned that. You can also use it for effect in things like there's some future house tracks that use it, but French house uses it a shit ton. So if you want a reference, listen to some of that stuff. And finally, for you guys who are really feeling the advanced today, I threw some multiband compression techniques at you using peak controller and multiband, fruity multiband compressor. And just remember, again, peak controller can be used for other things outside of multiband compression. So if you feel like controlling something using whenever a certain element hits. You can use 3D control and control any macro knob you have in FL Studio. So that's the video for today. Again, this is Colin Warren. Hope you guys enjoyed my no BS guide to it. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to give it a like and subscribe. And if you guys really did enjoy it and would like to help support me, put food on the table and or pay for college, I've got some Udemy courses down below you can check out and continue learning, and in addition, help support me in my music production teaching endeavors. Because even though I like doing these for free, it's always really encouraging to be able to do this, not have to worry about getting a part-time job doing something like that. So yeah, with that, hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, let me know if you have any other requests for no BS guides, and I'll be sure to cover those. So till then, catch you guys later. Go out and make some kick-ass tracks.